People say to me, they say, hey, Big Mike, the way you talk, the way you live your life, you should be on a cable TV reality show like E! Entertainment Channel. It almost did happen, just like the Real Housewives series. You know, the Real Housewives of New York, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, the Real Housewives of Orange County. It was going to be called something like the Real Housewives of the Lower East Side. It was the brainchild of Zoe Hansen, the real-life wife of Bronx rocker Handsome Dick Manitoba of the 70s East Village band, The Dictators. He owns the bar Manitoba's on Avenue B by Tompkins Square Park. He's a buddy of Jimmy Fallon, so he's always appearing as a guest all the time on the NBC Tonight Show. He DJs his own rock and roll show on Sirius Satellite Radio Fridays on the overnight. Never heard of him. Well, there was also Ann Hanavan of the hardcore band Transgender Jesus and her husband who plays the saxophone in the band. And there was supposed to be me and my ex, Puma, and that was it, the Real Housewives of the Lower East Side. It was all set. We even videotaped the pilot show for the series. The segment featuring me and Puma with Zoe Hansen interviewing us was videotaped at the old Bowery Poetry Club in East First before it just closed. Well, you know, nothing happened. Nothing ever did happen. Johansson pitched it to some of the studio heads, the executive, the suits. None of the cable networks picked it up. Have you ever seen the opening dialogue between hitman John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson in Quentin Tarantino's film Pulp Fiction? They discuss how their boss's wife, Mia Wallace, played by Uma Thurman, originally came out to Hollywood to film a television pilot, Force Fox 5, a kind of knockoff of Charlie's Angels. Again, nothing happened. The Samuel L. Jackson character explains how, although many pilots are filmed, very few are ever picked up for full-season productions by the network. So the Real Housewives of the Lower East Side never went anywhere. Now, this was back in 2012. A relationship, Puma and me, was already shaky ground at the time. It was falling apart. I had the feeling she wanted out. All the other Real Housewives of the Lower East Side had real-life rock and roller husbands, and Puma only had me, Big fucking Mike, the angry poet, the ranter, the rambling raconteur, not exactly rock star material. Puma wanted better. She wanted to trade up. We broke up in April. She kicks me to the curb in July. Puma goes on this big West Coast book tour promoting a new volume of her poetry. She winds up staying with SNL comedian Colin Quinn in his house out in L.A. Always got this sneaking suspicion this was all a setup, something she had in the planning for some time before she left for California. He was supposed to be the trade-up in the husbands, so she would fit better with the other Real Housewives of the Lower East Side, just like Zoe Hansen and Ann Hanavan. Who else? Kembra Fowler, the performance artist in the band The Voluptuous Horror of Karen Black. But like I said, nothing came of the pilot, so your ex never got rich and famous. Well, actually, she may be the next big thing in the poetry scene. Maybe not exactly Sylvia Plath or Emily Dickinson. She might be the next Ann Waldman or the next Patti Smith. Well, let me look up Zoe Hansen on my iPhone. I'll Google her. She was at one time the madam of London's biggest and most posh high-end escorts girls services. Later, she winds up as a prostitute herself and a junkie shooting up heroin and hooking as a streetwalker. I really don't want to hear that. Do I really have to hear that? Is this her? Yeah, that's her, all right. You see, she's got these full-sleeve tats on both forearms, vines, tendrils, leaves. That's to cover up the needle track marks. She had a lot of work done, a whole lot of work done. Yeah, those Kardashian girls, collagen injection, duck lips, her nose, her chin, her cheeks, her jowls, or her turkey neck waddle. You know, that's another thing I was very suspicious of when Puma broke up with me and headed out to California. She was out there about a month. She comes back with a tighter look to her face, like she had work done out there and wanted for all the bruises to clear up before she came back to New York. I also felt that was one of the reasons Puma got all tatted up at that time. Kind of a way of bonding with Zoe, trying to be, I don't know, younger. When I first moved in with Puma, she had one tiny yin and yang tat on her shoulder. When we broke up, she went out and had a full 2 sleeves, her entire back, and a tramp stamp on her ass. She looked like a Japanese Yakuza gangster. I don't know what a gangster is. I don't know what a Yakuza is. Who is Lydia Lunch? See, there's a photo of them together, Zoe Hansen and Lydia Lunch. Yeah, Lydia Lunch was part of the Lower East Side, New York, no-wave movement, post-punk, pre-new wave, very brief time period, like 1981 to 83, just 2 years at most. Music and film. You ever hear of Nick Cage and the Bad Seeds? Jim Jarmusch, John Lurie, co-founder of the Jazz Lounge Lizards, Brad Pitt, Juliette Lewis, Debbie Harriet Blondie, even Steve Buscemi. He's in all the Tarantino films. Everyone with a 16-millimeter film camera was making movies downtown. Susan Seidelman, Desperately Seeking Susan, with Madonna. Lydia Lunch was also a poet, a spoken word artist, and fronted for the punk band Teenage G's and the Jerks. She also made films with her boyfriend, Nick Zedd. He was always making low-budget art films. Read softcore porn. He directed Annie Sprinkle's film. I was in one of his films myself. I appeared naked on screen in the movie titled Lord of the Cock Rings. I used to do porn. You can look that up, you know. It's only softcore porn, no penetration, no cum shots, porn that doesn't frighten women. I really didn't hear that. You always seem to steer the discussion in the direction of porn or your ex-girlfriends. You always seem to do that. You ruin the conversation, you know? You know the Punisher? You should be called a ruiner. If you think bringing up those subjects will get me to fuck you, you are so wrong. You got another thing coming. You know, my first ex-wife would always say the same thing after a Christmas dinner and a lively after-dinner conversation. Valerie would drag me aside. What was the point of saying bull's testicles in front of my mother? And not just once. You kept saying testicles all during dinner. You just wouldn't stop. Testicles, 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 testicles. You ruined everything for everybody. Do you know that? You owe everybody here tonight an apology. Well, I was accused of ruining Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, New Year's Day, Ash Wednesday, every single one of my mother-in-law's birthdays, her birthday, her mother's birthday. You ruined everything. Maybe that should be the title of your new reality TV show, The Ruiner.